When I was a kid, the 30th of May was known as Decoration Day. It began with Boy Scouts piling into pickup trucks at the local American Legion and VFW halls and proceeding to the town cemetery with our hands full of these. And there we would place a flag beside the headstone of every veteran's final resting place. We'd then form up with the living veterans, the high school band, march down Main Street to the baseball field where a pastor would deliver an invocation. In 1967, the name Memorial Day became the official title of this somber holiday. Similar ceremonies still took place at all 141 national cemeteries in the U.S. and 24 others located on foreign soil, where more than 3 million Americans who served in our armed forces as soldiers, sailors, airmen, guardsmen, and Marines are interred. A visit to one of these quiet memorials is a tribute to those who made history by wearing our nation's uniform and taking up arms to preserve our liberty and free tens of millions of others from tyranny. In words written on stone markers, these places tell the story of who we are as a people. Since 1776, more than 1.5 million Americans have lost their lives while in uniform. But regardless of when or where they served, all interred in these cemeteries sacrificed the comforts of home and absented themselves from the warmth and affection of loved ones. Among them are veterans who served with my dad and all my uncles in the conflagration of World War II. Only a handful of those 16.5 million from that greatest generation remain with us today. Others resting in these consecrated places were tested just 5 years later in our first fight against despotic communism on the Korean Peninsula. They braved stifling heat, mind-numbing cold, and an enemy that often outnumbered them 10-1. There are the headstones of those who served in the decade between Korea and Vietnam. More than 12 million young Americans donned military uniforms in what was then called the Cold War. Between 1964 and 1975, more than 7 million young Americans were committed to the bloody contest in Southeast Asia. The names of 58,267 who died from that fight are on the wall of the Vietnam Memorial. Some of them were my Marines and my brother's soldiers. Headstones in cemeteries across our land testify to their selfless sacrifice, and it reminds us all that the victory denied in that war should never happen again. In the 4.5 decades since Vietnam, not a single year has passed without Americans in uniform being committed to hostile actions somewhere around the globe. My youngest brother, a U.S. Navy veteran, among them. We're not a warlike people, but for nearly 2.5 centuries, ours has been the only nation on earth willing to consistently send its sons and daughters into harm's way, not for gold or oil or colonial conquest, but to offer others the hope of liberty. When an American in uniform says, "We've got your back," it's not the slogan for a mattress company. Since 9/11/01, that great legacy has been borne by volunteers serving in the shadows of the Hindu Kush, along the banks of the Tigris and Euphrates, in the Persian Gulf, and on anti-piracy patrols in the Indian Ocean. These young Americans are engaged against a merciless enemy who's proven repeatedly there is no atrocity beneath them, and that they will do everything it takes to kill as many of our countrymen as possible. Those now in uniform deserve our thanks, for no nation has ever had a better military force than the one we have today. No accolade to those presently in our country's service is greater than honoring their comrades in arms who preceded them on Memorial Day. This year, with the COVID-19 pandemic, there won't be any parades and very few visits to cemeteries. But we can still thank God for those who served and who do so today. Today is a good day to pray.